afraid of doing some county forest trust land stuff and neglected the clock.
All right. Well, it looks like Nat has a full agenda for us today, so we better get
I know,
started.
it's overwhelming. What they've been doing.
I know it. Some really tough stuff on there too, like picking
know.
website colors.
I did put that on there actually.
I thought you were
so.
popular in charge of that. Why is that even on the agenda?
It's
Oh,
pretty
because-
important. Someone suggested the Beavers colors. Green.
That's-
What is
and
it?
it threw the
Orange
whole
and
thing
black.
into
Yeah, I don't
disarray.
think so.
Well, that was meant to bring you to life. Spur on action.
That-
That wasn't serious.
I wanted blue and yellow.
I was serious.
What a surprise.
I guess.
All right, let's go ahead and call this meeting to order then. At 11:03 a.m. on April 10th, 2020. And Nat,
Yeah.
you have some exciting stuff for us this
I
morning.
do, and I'm actually going to start with something that I forgot about and didn't put on the agenda, so we have one more item, which is we have our illustrious land agent and assistant here. So if you guys come up, because they can hear you if you talk into the mic here. So the issue was rescheduling the land sale. We have communicated that it is canceled for the 16th of or it's canceled. When was it scheduled again?
April 16th.
April 16th. So it's been canceled. There was some thought of rescheduling it in May. The issue is that we have to advertise quite a bit, and it costs about almost $2,000 to advertise. And if we don't have it in May, that'll be another $2,000 that we spend on the required ORS advertising that we will lose. So.
Yeah, it's required 4 weeks consecutive prior to the auction. We've already done it for the month of March for the April 16th auction that would have been next Saturday. The issue is if we called the World newspaper and had them start the advertising next week for May 16th, that would give us exactly 4 weeks prior to auction. However, I think that's a very optimistic date. Talking with the tax department, they said that is the last day in May that we could potentially have the auction. They do not want to have it in June due to all the distributions to the taxing districts that Megan has to deal with. And so we're thinking and proposing of moving it to the next fiscal year, possibly July, maybe August. Since we don't know where the state is at with the current situation, we don't want to put out an additional $1,700 in advertising for something we're just going to end up rescheduling, since now the schools are closed through the end of the school year and we're not sure where everything is headed.
Have we looked at an online auction?
We have, other counties have looked at that and have not gone that route. They've
Okay.
just canceled altogether.
Okay.
I've put feelers out to other counties and they've all just canceled and are not rescheduling per se, but booking later in either the late summer or early fall.
Why don't we just cancel till later notice?
That's what our website
Well, maybe
says.
because
That's
we
what I
wouldn't
put on our
have any-
website, is that it's to be determined. We don't have a scheduled date yet that we're thinking of, but I just wanted to run it by you guys and see what your thoughts were, because we'll do whatever you would like to do, but I don't want to spend an additional $1,700 of the county's money on something that is just basically a donation, because we'll end up rescheduling, because we've already
I think May's too soon, and I don't think we know enough about June yet or July to reschedule it. Just say cancel till further notice, and then periodically look at this.
That does mean, though, John, we'll have to find money in the budget to cover those costs, because we won't have reimbursement for those costs from this fiscal year. We can go back and get it later, but we won't have it.
Yeah, we won't have it for the budget,
Correct.
Right.
but we will have it sometime.
We do have some distributions, because we have sold land in this current fiscal year for last year's land sale that we did do in May of 2019. And anything that didn't sell, we sold in this particular fiscal year. So there are some distributions that we will be distributing contributing to the taxing districts, but not as much as we would have hoped having a land sale in this fiscal year.
So how much do you
is
think
that,
we would,
Drew?
how much do you think would come to the county if things sold at the prices we suggested?
If we just went by minimum bid, there's, $300,000 or $400,000 approximately that is on the list. But that's if everything's sold, that's if it's sold strictly at minimum bid pricing,
And it's not all coming to the county either.
and it's not all coming to the
No.
county either,
Right.
that's just a bulk
Yeah.
amount.
We only get about 10% or so or less,
10% of that.
So,
or less.
that would be probably a better question for Megan, but it's
Well, I
just
think
looking
that's
at our.
close enough.
Yeah,
It sounds to me like we're only looking at $40,000, and forcing the auction too quickly before we have a little recovery, time for recovery, if we ever get past this, will suppress the, I would think, would suppress the bids.
Exactly.
correct. So, and we've had lots of interest, several people have called, emailed, we've been fielding lots of calls from people asking if it's still continuing, still going on, and we've let them know as of Monday of this week that we were informed that the commissioners have officially canceled it. We didn't have a date to give them as an alternate yet. But we just told them that we would update the website so that everyone was on the same page and they could check that at any time. And as soon as I have any information, it just says currently we don't have another date in mind. So we can just leave it at that until something gets closer and we figure out when is a better date given the circumstances and go forward, and I'll update the website at that time
Okay.
if that's.
That's what I would propose, if the other two commissioners are content with that.
The only caveat I has, other than me, and I exempt myself, who goes tells Megan she has to make up that difference in the budget?
Not it.
John, you're
You
elected.
talked to her about it, didn't you? Yeah.
I have talked to her about it. She knows that there will be issues with doing that, but, this, like, the unprecedented times we're in, everything is gonna be, just a little bit different this year, so, that's
Different.
another thing we'll just have to deal with. Maybe.
Well, is there a possibility that, even though we don't have
There we
to
go.
say, wouldn't say the date yet, would there still be a possibility that if things improve enough virus-wise, that we could do it in June?
She doesn't have enough time to do what she needs to do if we did it in
Oh,
June.
she couldn't.
That's the issue, is that we would be pressing other tax departments by putting it any later than May 16th, because we're giving people, if we had it on May 16th, we give them 5 business days to come in and pay the remaining balance for what they purchased. That gives them that full week. If we push it back any later, then we've got Memorial Day as a holiday in there, that pushes it to June. And then therefore, Megan's requesting reports from other departments for reimbursement, and then she's got to send out the remaining fee or funds to the other taxing districts. So that really pressures her, and
Okay.
it's not worth the additional stress for something we can just push back.
Okay, I'd already forgotten.
Okay.
You
I
told
think
us
we,
that.
I think we've beaten this horse to death, so. I'm fine with, we have plenty of other things to discuss, so I'm fine
Yeah.
delaying it indefinitely. All right, thank you.
Okay, perfect.
All right, thank you.
We move on to the next horse. It's fine. So the next horse is reclassifying Philip Nell's position and shortening the probation period for Brian Leone, and that's the emergency manager at CH&W and the staff epidemiologist. Caroline, I'm going to ask you to step up and let us know what you know, I guess.
So, Florence contacted me last week and wanted to talk to me about reclassifying just Philip Nell's position, given the duties that he performs, and to try to make the position more in line with the emergency management position that's currently was just finished advertising for the sheriff's office. And so I prepared an agenda cover sheet with that wording, and it was my intention to put it on the 4/21 Board of Commissioners meeting. And I sent it off to Mike Rowley for his signature and approval. And then I believe that's when he contacted perhaps you, Melissa, and asked about it for you. I was not planning on putting anything for Brian Leon on the 4/21. He has not passed 6 months worth of probation, and it would be my recommendation not to do anything with his position until he at least gets past the 6 months of probation first. So it was specifically just for reclassifying Philip Nell's position. And you don't necessarily have to decide today because, as I said, I did have it scheduled for the 4/21 agenda. I think.
Yes, he did send it over to me, and I wasn't comfortable making a decision, obviously, so I asked now if he would put it on this agenda.
Yeah. And so you saw the agenda cover sheet that I prepared. I mean, Philip's position, he has kind of taken that position and run with it, and has taken on a lot of additional duties. He's gained a lot of money in grants, and so that's why I think Florence felt that a reclassification was appropriate.
But I thought we already dealt with this.
We dealt with it to the extent of giving him a merit step increase, and that was decided against. But at the end of the discussion, things were kind of left open to revisit perhaps the Philip Nell and Brian Leon issue at a later date.
Well,
And to that end, I think that's what Florence picked up on.
I didn't
I think
realize
it's
it
being
was,
brought it forth more as a pay equity issue at this point.
yeah, it is. So, I thought
We
we'd
didn't
already
address
dealt
it
with
really
the
as
thing.
pay equity in the past.
Yeah, we did not. And so if you want, you could just leave it on the 4/21 agenda for the three of you to consider.
That's fine with me, because Mike sent it to me and asked me, for my opinion on it. I didn't feel comfortable giving just my opinion, and I wanted to make sure the other two commissioners had a heads up that,
Okay,
this was still a point of discussion.
I guess we can revisit it on the 21st.
And I'm fine with that.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
I feel like sometimes if I don't pass this sort of thing along, there's not enough time for all of us to process it and think about it before that time.
Sometimes, though, I'm a little dismayed if you give an opinion and they don't like it, they keep coming back.
Well, I think we left the door open on this one, though, Bob.
Just my
I
thought.
agree with you, but I think there was some conversation towards the end of the last deliberation that
Okay,
Door was still
21st then.
Okay, so the next item is options related to COVID-19 temporary housing. Specifically, the question was with regard to the homeless task force and some different issues they were exploring, St. Catherine's Hospital, North Bend, as well as apparently asking questions about closed county park facilities.
They're also looking at North Bend Community Center and North Bend Senior Center, I think various other places.
Okay.
Well,
So-
when I asked before, when they were talking about the county annex in North Bend, have they worked out, which I haven't heard back from Florence yet, and that was 3 weeks ago, who's going to supervise all these folks if they even consent to going into one area? I mean, the homeless people consenting to do that. Who's going to feed them all? Who's going to do the cleaning and sanitation for all, etc.? I still haven't heard a solution to that problem.
Well, and I know that you did ask those questions. I didn't realize you hadn't gotten a response yet.
They said they would look
I
into
guess
it.
my initial thought with this one is, if we're going to follow some level of delegation of authority. We should at least send this over to John Rowe and get his opinion and concern before we respond, as, you know, since he's Public Works Director.
Really?
John?
Yeah, I missed the first part of this. Are we talking about place for homeless people?
Yes.
Yes, it was a question of whether or not the county parks could be used for non-congregate accommodations in the event of an outbreak.
And the question is being raised by the Public Health Department?
The homeless work group is actually the one that brought it forward.
Oh, okay.
That's a subdivision of the health department? Is that right?
Oh, I think so, but I am not positive.
Okay.
I think it's, you know, maybe one of their task force groups that's addressing certain specific issues.
Like I said, most of our county parks are out away from population centers, so, you know, the whole food service, the transport of these people to that location, how do they expect them to get them there without
I
exposing
think
them
there's a
to
rumor
folks?
that you really like to barbecue. And
Well, I was told to expect a call from a member of the homeless task force about this, and I've not yet.
Okay.
And
I received an email and forwarded it on to Nat and asked him to add it to our agenda.
oh, I see. Okay. All right.
But if you would like to follow up, I will forward you the email and you can call him back.
I'm not wild about the idea. So
Yeah, and
don't
there
know
are, there,
when our
and,
parks might be able to be reopened, or I don't want to expose our staff. I don't want to have people be concerned about lingering virus, although I know that's a long shot, but I'm sure that will come up when and if the virus issue is over. And I just don't see how they're going to make it work.
And even for the safety of the homeless people, if you gather them all together, assuming you can find them all and assuming they will go, which probably won't happen, wouldn't they be better off in small little groups that spread out throughout the county where they're not in contact with everybody else?
I don't think they gather any more easily than a herd of cats might.
Well, yeah, but in small little 4 or 5 or 2 or 3 person groups versus, you know, several hundred people together, it seems like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. If you'll send that to me, I think unless someone's real wild about doing this, I think I can address it.
I think you'd be the appropriate person to discuss any questions or concerns that we have, and if it needs to come back to us, we can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. If they come up with some logic, well, I can bring it back if I don't feel comfortable saying no.
Okay.
Okay, I'll do that. So call John.
I'll send you the
Got it.
email.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
all right, thanks,
Now,
John.
was there some mention made of short stay restriction enforcement?
Yeah, it's on the list. We're
Okay.
We'll get to it shortly.
All right, good.
So the next item on the list is the idea of discouraging outdoor burning during the COVID-19 pandemic.
What kind of burning?
Well, this was forwarded me by Alyssa, so she could provide some more details on that, I think.
Melissa?
Lawn debris. Outdoor lawn debris burning.
Oh,
Because
like
it's
leaves and
spring.
things?
And for some people, that is how they get rid of their lawn debris in the spring.
Oh, okay. Leaves and minor brush and that sort of stuff.
Yes.
Okay. Huh. And that causes, I'm assuming, a lung problem with a neighbor somehow?
The state has already, issued something discouraging it. If people have asthma or other lung conditions, it can make that worse. The other problem is that they've had issues with people going to the hospital believing that they had COVID-19 when actually it's just irritation from outdoor wood smoke, outdoor brush burning. So it's causing increased load on the hospitals too in some places.
Do we know whether they were burning the brush or it was the neighbor? We don't know, I suppose.
I haven't seen any data on that. Does
Okay.
it matter?
Well, if they brought it upon themselves, that would be a different matter.
The outcome is the same.
I realize that part, but one of them had a choice.
Melissa, I'm concerned about this, as you and I have visited on, that might carry over to the fall when we'll be trying to do slash burning. So if we do it, we have to be careful about that. But I have questions. In order for this to really be effective, we would have to do it as the county health authority, would we not?
It's not a ban. It would just be like sending out a PSA that says, hey, think before you burn.
Oh.
And if you know, as Bob mentions, if you burn and, you know, your lungs feel irritated afterwards, consider the fact that it might be the burning that's causing the irritation in your lungs and not COVID-19.
John, could you get closer to the mic, please?
Yeah, excuse me. This work?
No change.
I'll be damned. How about this?
Much better.
Yeah, that's good.
I got my mouth right up to it. I'm going to turn off my phone. I'm talking pretty loudly.
Well, you lost it
I'm going
again.
to buy you a set of headphones.
You want to increase
They're
the
pretty
volume
cheap.
on your handset, your iPhone.
Maybe that's it.
Would this be at something that would be put out on the county side, or something that would be released by public health as one of
Something-
their press?
Maybe something
releases?
being respectful of your neighbors if you're burning yours, or, you know, put it in your garbage can and take it to solid waste who can burn it out there at Beaver Hill without a lot of people around.
We don't want to encourage people to go to Beaver Hill unless they can walk there from their house for their trash can.
I was out there a week and a half ago.
On foot?
Not quite, no.
I'm fine with a public service type announcement suggesting being cognizant of your neighbor's well-being and the fact that this isn't good for people who are. This is anyway, not a good time to be burning if you can help it. But don't do it in such a way that it carries over to fall. And so
I'm fine with that. Maybe we can just ask public health to send out a, you know, we're all in this together email. And what do you think?
I'm okay with that.
Bob?
Well, I was just thinking about, a lot of times people burn, not just leave debris and limbs, but in rural areas, they tend to burn stumps and that sort of stuff. And a lot of times that fire goes underground and then breaks out in the middle of summer when there's a heavy wind sometimes. So they need to be cognizant of that kind of burning. But I'm fine with having the health department do a release that just says, be respectful of your neighbors if you're thinking about burning.
Then we can give them hell again.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, so the next item is the discussion of enforcement of our short-term rental ban, which was County Order 2003-014L. I put together a proposed order just clarifying the enforcement of 2004-014L, and sent that to John and Melissa, you guys, via email. I've given Bob a copy here, and basically it is just conforms with the laws regarding public health laws, saying that the public health administrator can impose a civil penalty of up to $500 per day, because that's statutorily the highest that they can impose, and that they'll do it under ORS 183, which is sort of a governing administrative penalties that are imposed by any agency or the local public health administrator. And then it also just makes reference to 401-990, which is the enforcement mechanism for violating an emergency, an order or an order relating to emergency declaration. And this is Order 2004-016L.
I would like to have some minimum on that.
On what?
On the up to 500.
It says may impose a penalty of $500 per day. I mean, we could say,
Oh, okay.
and the reason it says
I
may,
haven't read it yet, so that's fine with me.
the reason it says may is because, I mean, typically with enforcement, the first step in enforcement is going and saying, knock it off for a lot of civil enforcement things, and then escalating to imposing the penalty if somebody says, I don't have to listen to you. So,
I think Douglas County added some teeth, like a fine, to their short stay restrictions.
yeah, and the 500 per day is what it says that we can impose by rule. And it's nice to be able to have something.
So,
So do we have a motion to approve order 20-04-0160
So moved.
second,
in a second? Any further discussion?
yes.
All those in favor?
Oh, hang on,
Oh, go
hang
ahead.
on, please. Is there something, let's say I'm the RV owner, the RV park owner, so I
It'd be
let,
$1,000 in that case, it should be $1,000 a day. But
so
go
I
ahead.
let, dozen, let's say, people in who don't fit our exception on 20-03-14L. Do I get a fine per person that I let in, or just a single fine? I don't know that.
Well,
It looks
said-
like it's a single fine.
It says per violation per day. So if multiple people
Okay.
are left in a day, I think we would have an ability to say that it had been violated multiple times.
X times the number, huh? Okay.
And they can argue that that's not true if they want, but
Okay.
I think we could justify that, yeah.
All righty.
That covers it. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right. And anything else with regard to enforcement? Going once? And twice. Okay, so the next,
Well, question for Bob. What did we find out about, whatever it is up on 10 Mile Lake?
Our health department did an investigation and couldn't find a gathering of folks doing a fishing tournament.
Okay.
Although there was a lot of discussion by other folks in the community that was going on, there was nothing definitive ever found that happened.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
I do believe I sent you what the compliance officer for the health department sent me,
Yeah, I think I
Okay.
saw that.
just as an FYI.
Thank you.
okay, so the next item is, John, you brought this up to me, which was discussing under what circumstances, if we could even identify them, we would look at lifting our short-term rental ban. So not saying that we're considering doing that now, but just a discussion regarding what would have to transpire for that to be on the table for us. Currently, it goes through the end of April, and it would expire on its own terms if not extended further.
Well, related to this, I think we probably need to, at the very least, make a decision pretty soon, sometime before April 30th, about whether we intend to extend that limitation or not. I think people in the business would like to know whether they can, reopen for reservations and whatnot. So that's the related question, and I don't have any firm suggestions for what indicators we would use to reopen, but I'd like us to think about what that might be and maybe get some and discuss it here before too long. I don't think we're in a position. We've been asked, or I have been, to give a firm date, and I don't know how to do that. But if we had some indicators, we could at least give people some response. It's not a statewide ban, so we can't let the governor decide for it. So I'm not asking on that part of it for action today, but I do think today or before maybe even the 21st, which is our next BOC meeting, right?
Yeah,
Correct.
on the 21st.
We might want to, unless we're comfortable that this thing's going to be over by the end of April, extend for 2 weeks or a week or something.
You want to put that on the agenda for the 21st?
I think that's a good idea.
For the 21st, is that soon enough? I mean, that's not too late, you don't think?
Well, that would give them roughly 10 days to start. If we lift the ban, then they could start
Okay, all right, that'll work.
booking.
So the agenda item would be whether to extend
Mhm.
the application of Order 2003-014L.
Yes.
Unless we're comfortable now that we will extend it.
Mhm. Not at this point. I'm not anyway.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and I can put it on as a discussion, and if if we have further meetings and it becomes more clear the direction we want to go, then have something specific
Okay,
prepared.
that works.
All right. So the next item I have is just kind of open for anyone else who has updates or any additional topics that I didn't cover.
I'd like to bring up something. There's apparently discussion going on at the governor's office about, discussion only, about releasing 3,244 state prison prisoners back into society early. And I did I sent a text to our head of our parole and probation office, Mike Krim, and he thought it would just be overwhelming for them to try and handle that. I'm not in favor of it either. It just seems like they're going to try and empty the prison for whatever reason, and these people are in state prison. It's not like being in a county jail for 6 months or something. These people were serious enough that they had to go to state prison. So I'm not real happy with the governor's office, even considering that. In addition to that, I'm not real happy with our corrections department not even letting us know that they had a C-19 case. We had to find out about it by a third party. And now that the sheriff has tried to find out about the status of that, they don't want to talk to him. They don't want to talk to head of our health department, Florence. I think it's very irresponsible of the state corrections office to not keep us informed.
If I may, Commissioner, I just got off the phone
This
with
is Craig.
Paul Fraser, the sheriff, and he was just talking to you through a source he had that, that individual, as I mentioned earlier, his source confirmed that that individual was shipped back out to someplace else now, we don't know where. But, the information I had originally was they came from San Ann Pass, and as you heard on the phone call this morning, they told Florence that, he wasn't shipped in. And so not only are they not speaking, some of the information they are providing appears to be wholly inaccurate, if not flat out untruthful. That's a flat way of saying lying.
Well, to me, even if they sent that prisoner from another facility to Coos County during this period of time when we've been discouraging, at the governor's direction, a lot of moving around the state, we've been encouraged to stay home. Why in the name of heaven, if indeed that is what happened, did the state do that?
Yeah, you were supposed to be on basically stay at home and stay safe.
Right.
And now, we possibly find out they're transporting prisoners among state correction facilities around the state? That,
What, isn't public health going to give us a report of what they find out?
I think so. They have a team of 4 people who we heard this morning
And it
investigating.
discouraged us to do anything until they get back from us
Yeah,
to us.
but between our meeting,
looking into
our
it
phone
right now.
meeting, our phone conference this morning, the sheriff tried to find out and got sidetracked off a never landed a phone system by state corrections, and Florence tried to find out and couldn't find out anything.
But weren't they going to try again and then get back to us?
I'm unaware of that.
They are. They are going to get back to us. They're looking into it. Apparently, it's a legal gray area whether those people that are incarcerated at a Department of Corrections facility are considered residents of the county for the purposes of this statistical reporting, or whether they're still a resident of wherever they're from, which is my understanding from how this slipped through being reported through the normal channels. So,
Interesting.
but Coos Health and Wellness is looking into it actively, and we should hear back from them as they get more information.
It sounds like the triple shuffle thing.
Well, it sounds like an instance where a legal distinction is not a practical one. So,
Yeah.
as far as
I'm not
potential-
defending the distinction, I'm just explaining.
Oh yeah, no, I'm just peanut gallerying here. So,
We're gonna shoot the
An
messenger.
analogy to refute the logic of that is if someone came up here from California and was found to have the virus while they were camping at one of our campgrounds or visiting, I think it would still be reported as a Coos County illness, not a Del Norte County illness or wherever else they might have come from.
Right,
Actually, it does get reported to the county of residence.
yeah.
That's been
Yeah,
an
right.
issue that's come up numerous times during this, yeah.
Okay.
You would think so.
Yeah, because there's been counties where the person is actually in another county, but they still get reported back as their original county and vice versa.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so back to the issue of the governor's thinking it might be a good idea to release a bunch of prisoners. What do we do?
disincarcerate is the term, just in case
The what?
anybody's wondering.
What is it?
The term is
Disincarcerate?
disincarcerate. Yeah,
Okay.
so you can use that the next time you play Scrabble.
So how do we get word to her that we don't like
Is that a word?
And that maybe could go through AOC. The other thing is, can we have another order saying that no disincarcerated persons are going to be allowed in our county? No one disincarcerated because of the coronavirus will be allowed in Coos County? I don't know how we keep
Yeah, I'm not sure that's going to be something that's workable as far as if people at a state correctional facility like Shutters Creek were to be disincarcerated by the state. I don't think we would have authority to say that that can't happen in our county. We would be preempted by the state's actions.
And how do they, it violates the governor's own rule of stay in place and stay healthy. I don't understand that. And on the one hand, they're telling everybody to stay home and stay healthy. On the other hand, they want to release a whole bunch of prisoners out in the society all over the state. That makes no sense at all.
What's the best avenue of telling the governor we don't like that idea?
I guess we could send her a resolution.
Or we could work through AOC.
Yeah, either one, but she needs to know that us folks out here that are being affected are not happy with that. I know, how do they disperse these folks? Do they bring them down by transport somewhere and let them go? How does that work?
I have no idea.
I say just turn the transport around and have them dump them off at the Capitol and they can stay there.
So apparently disimprison is also a word, by the way.
Yeah.
So.
I don't care how you
So
slice it.
regardless of how we feel, I think we do need to be a little sensitive on this subject and realize that this is somebody's loved one. Everybody has somebody that they care about that maybe has made bad choices in their life. So
Well-
I'm not advocating for disincarceration. But I'm saying we should be a little thoughtful when we talk about this sort of issue.
Well, I understand that, but it puts everybody else at risk too, everybody else's loved ones.
And I understand that. But I mean, I think we're fine with sending the governor an email, a letter. We can send it through AOC. We can send it to our legislators. Either way, saying, because of the potential of exposure from people who have been recently held in congregate living facilities, we are opposed to adding that exposure to the communities.
We had that discussion with our state reps and senators this morning at 10 o'clock, and everybody on the phone and all the commissioners from Southern Oregon were just kind of incredulous that would happen. So I don't think it was universally loved. Got anything else anybody wants to bring up besides what I brought up?
I would bring up something. I was on this phone call. Who was it with? Oh, I know. Yesterday with Jay Sullivan, and the counties were talking about local issues, and he talked about some legislation that was pending that thought it might have some provision for reimbursing local governments for lost revenue, in addition to the possibility of their being reimbursed for direct COVID-related costs, and which we already are tracking. But I'm wondering if we ought not to add to that on the chance that there is such a provision in any forthcoming legislation, tracking of lost revenue. I know we've already been put on notice at roads that to anticipate less gas tax revenue, and we know from parks that we've lost revenue. Are there other possibilities? We're going to know pretty soon. I'm sure we're going to lose revenues from abandoned dunes on their public safety thing. Anyway, I'm wondering if we ought to add that to the list of things we're keeping track of, because I know from my own past experience, if I don't write something down, within a little while I forget about it. And I always have, so that's not necessarily a sign of age.
You
I think-
anticipated that joke there, so.
I think it's a good thing to jot down all the areas where we're going to be affected.
Should we ask our department heads to pass that information on to, was it Charity that was to be collecting that for us?
Probably
She-
a good idea.
I've been collecting the amounts of money that's being spent on safety for the employees of the county.
Uh-huh.
I think,
haven't collected any lost revenue.
Yeah, and that, I know we weren't, and that's why I brought this up.
Mhm.
And I don't know that there'll be any legislation for sure that will allow, that will repay us for that, but I thought it might be a good idea to ask the department heads to give to you instances where they are, so we do have, where they are losing revenue, so we do have it on record someplace.
Well, just as a thought, I don't know if it might be more appropriate, and our finance director isn't here, but it might be easier for their office to track it simply if they have a better understanding of what our sources of revenue are, and then how we can compare what we're experiencing now versus what we have in the past. They might be able to document those items more effectively.
Who were you suggesting do that, Matt?
Oh, I just said, in the finance office, because of the fact that they're, all the departments are submitting, their projected revenues per year to them, and they're dealing with that on a day in, day out basis. They might be better able to get a submittal from a department saying this is our lost revenue, and be able to really verify that yes, this is true, yes, this is provable, and this is how we can show it. Whereas if it comes through our office, I feel like it'll just be one more step, because we'll probably end up talking to them about each submittal that we're getting. It's just sort of my guess. So that's my thought on it.
So, if we don't, if it's something we want to act on, fine. If we don't,
And I can follow up with Megan and have a conversation about it. But I personally think it's a good idea to send something out to all department heads once we have an idea of how we're going to collect the information, because, like you said, we don't know what kind of different relief packages might be coming down the road. And I would think that to the extent possible, we'd want to document what every impact was, and there's going to be some significant ones.
what if we just leave it with department heads for the time being, until we know that it'll be useful information?
Yeah, that works, but we'll still need to send something out.
They'll need some direction on what to collect.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll draft something.
Okay. You want to talk about it on Monday?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, anything else virus related?
Anybody out in the audience?
I do.
Oh, Melissa
I
does.
kind of have one question. Bob, do you know if Tiger Sports Park is still open?
I have no idea, actually. Tiger Sports Park.
Is there any way you could find out?
I could drive out there and look.
Okay. Or if you have somebody that you could ask, I would appreciate it. I've
I
gotten that
think
question and I don't know.
I
what
do
to
have
tell people.
one of the members' phone number in my phone. I could call them.
If you wouldn't mind, I
I'll
would
find
appreciate
out, yep. And then I'll send out
it. Thank you.
a response.
Thanks.
Yep, I'll send it to Sheriff and to Florence and you and John of what I find out. And Nat.
Okay, so I think now we can get to the real meat of the discussion here, which is the color scheme for our new website was brought up to me, and I will put this on as a item that came up that we'll reserve the right to discuss in this meeting here. I want to get any challenges, you know, if we decide blue and, you know. So Darius, any thoughts? You suggested orange and black, I think, previously.
No,
which
that was
is-
John.
Oh, that was John. Never
Yeah.
mind.
I had yellow and blue. Melissa had dark blue, light blue, and white.
So I looked at some examples, and we're being asked for three things: the primary color, an accent color, and an optional secondary color. The primary color is I think mostly what we're going to see. The accent a lot of time is a variation on that one, or a different hue on that the primary color. I have absolutely no design sense, so I'll defer to the commissioners, because whatever I pick is going to be hated by everyone.
Well, I think yellow is nice and cheery.
Might be a little too bright. Typically, the colors are a little darker.
Depends.
What about the blue and green that goes in the county logo?
I hate that green.
Okay, take care of that.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the green either.
We can certainly do like a different color green. Again, you know, there's some color palettes that I can send out, and the colors translate into a six character code, which is what we need to provide them. Again, I'm the last person you want to ask about what looks good.
Do
But
you
we-
know how long it took us to pick the color for room 121?
And it was a total fail, too.
You know, usually I defer these decisions to my wife. If you'd like, I can have her pick the colors
we could
for us.
we could just designate.
You know what? That would actually work for me.
Well,
I'm fine
yeah.
with that.
I could ask Deb too. She's a extreme quilter and has a really good sense of color. So
And
could
that's
talk
fine.
to
I mean,
her.
I don't think this is really that earth-shattering of a decision.
sometimes I pick out a tie and a shirt, and she goes, "Ooh."
Yeah.
You just wait. It will be when it's over.
Yeah. And I can, like I say, I can send out some.
Better just ask one lady. We'll just get different opinions and be right back talking about this again.
But you know what, John? I did, and here we are.
Oh.
I'm not going to let them blame me because they don't like the colors.
Do you want to
Not
have
that lady.
you want to have Deb take a look at some
Sure,
palettes and
sure.
okay. So Bob
Yeah,
has
but if
agreed to
she comes back
ask.
with purple,
Yeah.
No purple.
Purple's out.
if she comes back with purple or black and orange, we're going to know that Bob actually picked those colors.
No, I'm
Well,
not-
black and orange was John, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's John.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was yellow and
Bob,
blue.
yeah, Bob is yellow and blue.
I don't think it'll end up with any of those.
All right, let's do
Yellow
that
and blue,
then.
coincidentally, is also Bob's campaign colors.
Oh, really?
Exactly. He's waving
No
a pen
kidding.
over here.
Yeah. Oh.
All right, thanks. I'll
supposed to say
get
that.
that over to Bob. So color palettes over to Bob, and then we can
Well, then-
at a later date we can look at the.
I'll just give you Deb's email and you send it directly to her.
Perfect,
Leave
okay.
me out of the middle of this thing.
Okay,
That's
perfect.
great.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tell Deb we said thank you.
Yeah, she appreciates it, I'll bet. Anybody in the audience want to bring up anything? Sheriff, Captain, Charity? Nobody else? Okay.
Question.
Oh, Bobby has a question.
Are you gonna continue to do these update meetings even though we have budget committee next week, or are
Ooh.
these on hold, or?
Because we're scheduled all next
I don't
week
know.
for
I was
budget.
worried about the same thing. I feel like we're having to make decisions at every one of them, but I would almost prefer to keep them on the calendar and maybe we can just take a brief break from budget.
We're going to have the budget in here, right?
Yes.
So we could just take a break, like you say, and do it here, since we're going to be in here anyway.
Yeah.
I need to advertise, so I, like, continue at 11, like we have been?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that okay with you, John?
Well, I worry about taking the time from our citizen budget committee members. We're just adding another hour to their day. What about doing it at noon?
Because I'm fine with noon.
Yeah,
You
I'm
care, Bob?
flexible. I'm flexible, yep.
Then doesn't take away from budget deliberation.
Okay.
All right.
Who's providing lunch?
That's the most important part,
Yeah.
for you anyway.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There you go.
Nat wants to know
I
who's
think I'm getting
providing
a lot of
lunch.
Denny's pizza next week. I'm
Yeah.
pretty excited.
Yeah, we can get delivery.
Yeah,
Walk it down the block.
okay.
Is that
All
everything?
right. Anything else?
I think that's it.
That's it, I think.
Okay. Then we are adjourned, and our next meeting will be Budget Committee starting at 8:30 on Monday morning.
Yep,
Hey,
thank
got a
you.
question. Do we dial in on the same number for budget committee?
Yes, sir.
You can, yes.
Okay. Good.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Have
Bye.
a good weekend, everyone.
I hope
You
he
too,
has
John.
a headset by Monday.
Yeah. Get a headset,
Bye.
John.
The
Huh?
Bose wireless headsets work really well, by the way. No putting in for an advertisement or anything, but I have one that works extremely well.
See y'all. Bye-bye.
Bye, John.
Bye.
Yeah, I love those wireless headphones.